Should I put it back on
Hello?
automatically adjust? Oops,
No,
sorry.
you should keep it. You should keep it unchecked, Liz.
Fine.
Hello and welcome to another episode of DCU Daily. We are live. So we have got lots of news from the world of DC as per usual. And of course, I am Dan. You might know me. Or if you don't, then hello, I'm Dan. So we've got to talk about the rumors about a Clayface movie potentially happening and Mike Flanagan being involved. We've got to talk about, of course, Superman. There's another rumor about when the trailer might be coming out. I don't necessarily know if James Gunn even trusts the source on this one. Speaking of James Gunn, of course, he's been talking about how Superman and Batman don't really need origin stories in the new DCU because the people already know their origin stories. So we're going to get into that. We're going to debate that topic, of course. We have lots more news beyond that to get into. Superman and Lois. There's a few other things like we're going to do a fan casting for Dr. Fate. Would you like to see maybe Pierce Brosnan back in the role or maybe somebody new? John's got a few options picked out for us. And then, of course, we have to talk about your comments that you've been getting on the channel the last few days. So we've got a few of those to get into. And beyond that, I'm sure we'll get into lots more fun topics. So to do that and so much more, of course, as always, I've got with me not only John today, but I've also got Liz. So Liz, how are you doing today? How has your day been?
Oh, just trying to get my life together over here, but everything is good. Happy to see you guys. Happy to get into it. Seeing 3 big movies tomorrow. Very excited.
That's awesome. I mean, hey, there's a lot of big movies out in theaters this week, and we've got, of course, Wicked and Gladiator 2, which I'm trying to decide between calling either as Gladict or Wikiator, and I don't know which one sounds better. But nonetheless, maybe somebody in the chat can let us know which one sounds better. Speaking of sounding better, John, how are you doing today?
I'm only seeing one movie tomorrow. I'm seeing Gladiator 2 tomorrow. I don't put like 10 movies in one weekend. I wish I could do that, but I don't. I might start doing that in all honesty. Just like fucking just stream through every single. I mean, I did it once back in 2019 when I saw Shazam and Pet Sematary back to back, which was really fun.
That's an interesting movie.
It's just like it's hard nowadays. You got to like discern when the movie's going to end with how many fucking previews there are. So
always
like,
at 20 minutes.
You go, yeah. Well, I had 30 minutes because it's usually 20 to 30 minutes now.
That's
so
fair.
It's like,
that's true. Yeah.
Crazy.
Well, and again, because if you're in the IMAX or if you're in the Dolby, then they have their stupid little intro crap on top of it. Nicole Kidman still won't leave any of us alone. So yeah. So
then you got the breakdancing one with the cars and the kissing,
which is
and the
absurd. Yeah.
My dad hates that one more than the Nicole Kidman one. I actually got straight up for Christmas last year before they shortened it. I got my dad like a T-shirt that had the whole original Nicole Kidman speech because we would make fun of it constantly.
I know. I'm like, I know it by heart now. It's very upsetting. Actually,
heartbreak feels good in a place like this. That doesn't make sense, Nicole. Like, what are you talking about?
Well,
yeah,
I get the sentiment, but I'm tired of. It's been like 3 years now. We're over it.
You know where heartbreak does not feel good? In a place like this. Because fuck the Penguin and what he did to Vic, justice for Vic, and
How much longer are we going to be going on this?
I don't know.
You're going to die on this hill.
I am going to die on. I already told John I'm going to die on this hill. I don't know why.
We're still going to watch season 2 when they have a season 2. Stop.
If or when and how and what and blah blah blah. All the words. We'll see. I'm sure Colin Farrell is. He's like, I'm not going to miss the voice. I'm not going to miss the suit. I'm like, all right, Colin, I'm sure you're not going to miss the paycheck either. Oh, wait. Exactly. So let's talk about Clayface, shall we? There is a rumor from Daniel RPK and APOC Horseman, 2 supposed scoopers and insiders who more or less sometimes get things right and sometimes they don't. So, take a big grain of salt with this. However, they did just put this out there on the internet, and now, of course, the web is going wild about the idea that Mike Flanagan has potentially already written and completed, unlike Matt Reeves and the Batman 2, a script for Clayface, and he's aiming to shoot it in spring 2025. Listen, Matt Reeves, just pay attention. I know this might not be true, but goddamn, and Mike Flanagan has completed a script, and even if it is just in a rumor form, you've got to complete a script because you've got a movie that's going to start filming next year and it's got a release date. But I digress. Talking about Clayface, of course, John, I'm going to start with you here because we have talked about this on the show a lot. And it's come up before. We have seen Mike Flanagan, of course, hanging out with Peter Safran at the Olympics. There were a few other people there as well. So we have speculated in the past which project Mike Flanagan may want to be involved in. We so far don't know officially what his level of involvement in the DCU is at all. If he's even part of the DC Studios setup, I don't even know if he's in the writers' room that James Gunn assembled. But it looks like the rumor is out there, and we have had situations this year where these rumor comes out and then later on it gets confirmed. Of course, James Gunn denies them sometimes. He has not denied this one as of yet, as far as we are aware. So I want to get your opinion on this, John. Are you looking forward to potentially seeing a Mike Flanagan-led DC movie focused on Clayface?
Of fucking course I am. What
day.
kind of fucking person would say no to that? It's like, that's like handing someone $1 billion and them being like, yeah, this is tax-free. You can do anything you want with it. You can even commit crimes with it if you want to. Here, do whatever you want. And they're like, no, thanks. And I'm like, what do you mean? What do you mean? Like, this is what his ideas are he has not missed. This man has not missed. Yeah, he's like some of his other like lesser movies like Midnight Society and Bly Manor aren't as great as some of his other projects, but this he still hasn't missed. I don't think this would be a miss. This wouldn't be like Todd Phillips saying fuck you to the audience like it was with Joker Folie Do. That's coming from someone who likes the movie. I think that this would be whatever he would have planned, I think would be awesome, whether it's like the more like Phantom of the Opera route of like the original Basil Karlo Clayface, or like the actual clay monster, or like both maybe, and making that work. That would be amazing. Although he does have he has another movie coming out next year, and he has like 7 other projects in the waistline. So like, I don't know how true this is. I want it to be true. I want it to be true so badly. So badly. Because this was, I think it was like in 2018, probably around the time Joker was coming out, where he pitched this to DC and they're like, nah. And then I'm like, you're idiots. So like maybe James Gunn actually has a brain cell jumping around in there and is like, yeah, Mike Flanagan doing a horror villain movie, yeah, fucking let's go. And is like, all right, let's do it. I don't think that, but here's the thing that is like aiming to shoot by spring of next year. I have a hard time believing that. Like, at least with the Luca Guadagnino and Daniel Craig Sergeant Rock movie, if Daniel Craig is confirmed or not, whatever that case may be. At least that's like, oh, they're considering maybe kind of sort of might be able to do it. So like, I'm willing to believe that. Like, okay, that's like, they're still like, circling the drain. Okay. But this is like, nah, it's going to shoot next year. And it's like, whoa. Hang on. They're going to be shooting Lanterns and Supergirl around that time too. So I don't know if that's going to be the case, but I hope it's real. The dates are a little iffy to me.
That's fair. No, I think that's fair. We're already in November. I think it's reasonable to assume casting's going to take a while, shopping it around. So I agree that spring might be a little too early, a little hopeful, but we'll see what happens. I'm just excited. I'm not familiar with this character, so I'm excited. As you guys know, I've been saying over and over again, I want new characters that have never been explored, have never been put out on, on a TV, a regular show or a big blockbuster. So I'm looking forward to something new and different and learning about this character. So I hope it really does happen. I think that would be really cool.
Yeah, and I know, like, and the thing is, they're 50. I would say more 66% with their villain solo projects. I mean, you have the first Joker, which was, beloved, made $1 billion. Then you have the Penguin, which came out this year, which was like amazing. But then you also have Folie Adieu. So, I mean, they're batting, like 600 on that one. So it's mostly okay, but obviously if you just let Mike Flanagan do whatever the fuck he wants to do, and kind of like what James Gunn's doing with Matt Reeves with his universe, because the thing is, I know people say, oh, what about the script being written? Well, the thing is, as I said, he pitched this in 2018.
Right.
So that was 6 years ago. So it's entirely possible that they're like, no, we won't do this. But he's like, all right, I'm still going to fucking write a script because you know what? I want to write it. I want to maybe do it eventually. Maybe they'll be open to it. And he probably, you know, between his like 7 billion other projects that he's doing constantly, and he's like, all right, I'm going to continue writing this. I think this is a good idea. And I'm going to double down on that and just continue to do it. And
Well, and
that
also,
makes sense to
you know,
me. It's just the
think
shooting
about
things.
but also think about where DC was in 2018.
Right.
And then of course we had COVID, so people were kind of just they were unsure what was going to happen with you know, creative projects and things like that. Now with all of the new things that DC's been putting out, with James Gunn being at the helm, I think he said, if anything, he was like, okay, this might be the time. And I'm like I said, I'm here for it, so it's cool. I'm always looking forward to new things, so that's going to be really nice. See what
Oh
happens.
yeah, I think.
But again, like you said, the spring timeline, I don't know about all that because
I don't know. That's
we don't even know that this
sus.
is totally confirmed. Right, exactly. So
that's definitely suspicious. But and Daniel RPK and APOC Horseman have been very hit and miss. So you know, I mean, although Daniel RPK, I think he got most of the Lanterns rumors right, so that's entirely possible. So I don't know. I think Flanagan would be an excellent addition to the new and improved DC Studios banner. Now it's entirely possible that he only got some tidbits right. Like, okay, maybe he's like, oh, it's happening, but like not for a while. He wants to finish his Stephen King adaptation now. Maybe he wants to keep doing Dark Tower for right now, and then a couple other things. So, but I'm excited about this. If it is true, if it's not true, then screw you guys for cock teasing me like that. The hell out of here.
well, fingers crossed.
I mean,
they teased me before.
We've got, wait, I just went in the chat and there's somebody apparently pretending to be me who said, actually, Penguin is amazing. I'd love him and Big deserve what he got coming to him. You know what, John? Like, sometimes
that's
you ride
that's a good troll.
Yeah, that's.
Sorry, Dan.
It's wow, the cough is coming back. What is Hunter asking? Well, we got Hunter in the chat. We've got Buster Barnes in the chat. Hey, you're not Dan. I'm Dan. I'm Dan. Hi, Antonio. Hi, Hugo. We got Hugo in the chat as well. Jay is here. No, we have not done the casting yet, Jay. We will get into that later in the show. We're first trying to get through some of the news, items that are out today, and then we'll get into some of the other stuff. So yeah, it's good to have you guys in the chat. And then Buster Barnes is asking, I think, an interesting question. Do you think this Clayface movie is going to be a part of the DCU, or do you think this is meant to be something that sort of stands by itself as an Elseworld story? What do you think?
I think this was definitely be an Elseworld story because it gives, him, he has to do whatever he wants. It might be people like, oh no, it's gonna be like Joker all over again. Well, it's a different filmmaker. It's under a different banner. You could definitely tell with some of the latter half of the marketing that like James Gunn didn't even fucking talk about Joker. He's like, Superman, the Christopher Reeve story. Look how amazing this documentary is, and like. Joker, I don't know what that is. And he's just, let's just bury that. Let's continue. Let's move on. So I think like clearly he was just trying to distance himself from that because he knew it was like what it would become. And then, yeah. So I think just getting a different filmmaker, having a vision, don't give it an unnecessary sequel in the minds of many people.
Oh,
and again, coming from someone who liked it.
I can't tell what just happened.
So
that's you. I'm good with John. I don't know what's going on.
Hello?
Yeah. Again, the penguin.
Here?
No, the penguin strikes again.
I can't tell
Dan.
what just.
Oh boy.
Did I just freeze on you guys again? Is that what just happened?
No, you were talking. You were fine.
We can hear you. You're moving. We can hear each other.
Yeah,
it's
you're good.
Penguin. You've cursed yourself.
I swear to God, man. All right. Well, you know what? Before we move on to the next topic, Hugo has a request for you, John. So would you please do him the honor and just stare into the screen for like 3 or so
All right,
seconds.
just don't like fucking like jack off to it or something, you weirdo.
You guys why are we being creepy in the chat tonight?
Antonio's like, at least it's not going to be a music.
He just unlocked your iPhone.
Joke's on you. I don't have Face ID and I don't have an iPhone, so
Yay, good for you. Fight the
yeah,
good
I have a Google Pixel. I have an Android like a real man.
Yep.
No, dude, Hugo's like, no, I have an iPad Pro. I'll give you a kiss on the forehead. Oh, okay.
Oh,
I see,
well.
I see. All
Well.
right. Well, in that case, Hugo, I hope you've had your opportunity to do that. We are going to move on to talking about Creature Commandos, which of course is now coming out in count the days, like less than 2 weeks, right? It's
Yeah.
not even 2 weeks. So, Liz, you came across this story and shared it with us before we started, and I think it's
You're
kind of worth going through because, well, of course, thank you so much for adding to the conversation as always. Now, recently, the cast of Creature Commandos has been doing a lot of promotional work. James Gunn himself has been in a lot of interviews, and of course, Sean Gunn is voicing a character. Actually, he's voicing 2 characters in Creature Commandos. So he also did some interviews, and amongst them, there's a few interesting quotes. He talks about in this article about how different the Creature Commander show is going to feel from something like the Guardians of the Galaxy over at Marvel. And the byline here said they're trying to survive in a world that doesn't accept them, which you could say the same about Guardians of the Galaxy, but then also it looks like this show goes like a little harder in terms, and with more. I don't want to just say edgy because like edgy itself just feels like a term that just feels derogatory now, but certainly it's darker. it's fair enough. It's darker. The show has got more mature themes. Of course, the language. You're not gonna have to worry about like starving for any F-bombs because I'm sure there will be plenty of them in there. So Liz, you read through this article, I'm sure, and then John as well. I want to get your opinion on this as far as what Sean Gunn is talking about. That this is going to feel much different than Creature Commandos, and or not Creature Commandos, than the Guardians of the Galaxy, which of course Sean Gunn was a part of as Kraglin. And are you looking forward to seeing Sean Gunn in this? He's playing 2 roles, including reviving the role of Weasel, which he also voiced in the Suicide Squad that James Gunn directed. So are you looking forward to it, and even more so? Are you looking forward to seeing Sean Gunn in here? What are your thoughts, Liz? I'll start with you here.
I mean, I love Sean. I've met Sean. He's a wonderful person. I'm looking forward to just kind of again, you guys know I'm still a novice when it comes to DC characters. So I'm looking forward to being introduced to new characters and getting their kind of backstory and seeing how they all interact and work with one another within the universe. But when I had sent you guys that article, John had made that comment right away. He read that line and he was like, so Guardians of the Galaxy? That's what you're saying?
Yeah.
Like that's the summary of
That's
Guardians.
what that is.
So I'll let John talk some more about it, but I am excited for it, and it's nice that unlike Peacemaker where I had to catch up, like it's not out yet, so I'm excited to be able to like watch it all in real time with you guys. So that'll be really cool.
I mean, I'm not saying like I'm not excited or anything like that. It's just like but I agree with you that like he's just trying to like get people who are like doubtful, like, oh, this is what the 5th time that James Gunn has made something where a ragtag group of misfits have to fight against something. I can imagine that Creature Commandos has gotten a lot of love. I mean, but it's also like on the one hand, I'm like, oh, it's just Suicide Squad again, just Guardians again. But at the same time, it worked those 4 times. Like, why exactly? Like, who cares?
Broken? Like, and again, from a marketing standpoint, from a studio standpoint, they're never going to sit down in an interview and be like, "Yeah, it's just like Guardians," or like they're never.
I always say that exactly.
They're like, never going to. I
always say that. So, it's like when you have like Isabella Merced praising David Cornswell, you have Frank Grillo. Oh, the trailer gave me goosebumps. Like you have all these actors, all these things. It's like, yeah, no shit. They have to embellish and they have to say it's great. Yeah. What are they going to fucking come out and say? Oh no, Superman, it's actually the worst movie I've ever been in. James Gunn is an idiot and can't direct. And like, oh yeah, this DCU is DOA. Like, of course they're not going to say that. They got to build it up. You can't really trust.
Guardians is great, so I don't give a shit if it's another Guardians.
I mean, as I've said many times again. Guardians 2 is my favorite MCU movie. Right. So, I loved the first one. I love the second one. I like the third one. It has its problems, but
Yeah.
it's still an overall a good movie. Honestly, I think it's safe to say the Guardians trilogy is the only trilogy that came out of the MCU unscathed, and all three are actually genuinely good installments.
That's pretty fair.
So hats off, because it's just like Kevin Feige actually let James Gunn do whatever the fuck he wanted, and good for him.
Yeah.
So like it's it could be a little tiring, a little repetitive, a little iffy, but at the end of the day, like I like a lot of the actors, I like a lot of the characters.
Yeah.
From what we've seen of them, I mean, I mean, you and me both love Frank Grillo. He's great, like in everything he's in. Like he's like an underrated gem of like an actor, because I feel like he's usually kind of mostly in like direct to video crap, but like he's always good.
He's always the guy that when you see him, you're like, oh yeah, it's that guy. He's always that guy.
Character actor.
He's
but like,
never in a supporting role. He's always like in the third or fourth, like in the background or like a throwaway, like he's in for like 30 seconds. But you've seen him everywhere and everything, and he always delivers. So I'm really looking forward to seeing him.
And then what's the Varma, playing the bride? I've seen her in a bunch of stuff. She always delivers. Alan Tudyk is God's greatest gift to humanity. Really Zoe Chow, I've seen her in a couple things. She's good, and I like Sean Gunn. Like I like his. From what little we've gotten of GI Robot, I'm like I like his like deadpan. It has been a while since GI Robot sent Nazis back to hell. It's like that's like. All right. Well, I mean, Sean Gunn is a good like actor out. I know people complain like, oh, it's like nepotism because James Gunn puts his brother and everything. I'm like, all right.
Well, he and Indira Varma were both just interviewed about the show, and he said his relationship with his brother, it's his longest working relationship. They've worked together since they were kids, and he's like we just get one another, and there's no like honeymoon phase where you're trying to get to know one another, you're trying to follow into a rhythm. He's like, I get where he's coming from. He understands what I'm capable of as far as acting is concerned, so he knows what he can get out of me. And listen, anybody who's ever gotten a job through a friend or a family member, you guys need to stop it with this nepotism crap. I'm so sick and tired of the nepotism argument. Anybody that can get a leg up anywhere in this world is going to take it. So shut up.
And
just
on top of the fact, his most famous role was without his brother. It's Kurt on Gilmore Girls. Like he didn't get
right.
That was like,
but it's just a stupid conversation at this point. Who gives a shit? Like I'm so over all of it. But he actually, for the voice of that robot that you were referring to, he actually did go back and look at like 1940s film reels to kind of get like the news anchors' voices, like the kind of the tone of the era.
I kind of get that vibe.
So so he's definitely like done some research and tried to at least have an understanding of the way things were reported, the way people spoke, the commonalities, the phrases that they would use back then. So he's put his all into it. And I mean, this guy, he does everything. It's just I'm excited for where this is going to go. And just like that comment, everybody that has had any screenings of it, like they've shown it at Comic-Cons and stuff, are just so beyond thrilled about it. So it's going to be cool. I'm looking forward to it.
And Antonio is also saying nepotism happens in every place, business, sports, politics. Nepotism happens everywhere.
I got my job because I know a guy. I'm on this show because I know a guy.
Because it's like you know a guy, you know a guy, you know a guy, you know a guy. It's like that's like, the whole chain of command. That's how like things work. Have worked for the dawn of time. So
really. Anyway,
I think that I will say the only time it's like at least kind of warranted is when like the person kind of sucks and then they keep getting work. I'm like, okay, I understand that. But if it's like, okay, Mike Flanagan puts his wife, Kate Siegel, in every one of his projects. Okay, I'll take it because you know why? Kate Siegel's a really great actor.
Kate Siegel's awesome. Yeah. So
the problem I have is Rob Zombie putting his wife, who can't act, into every single one of his movies.
But she's a hell of a dancer. Come on now.
I will say though,
I've actually met her too. She's very nice.
I'm sure.
To the point that you guys are making about nepotism, I think it's very common. It's almost like in like a theater troupe. What you see often is the same troupe works together all the time. I mean, hence
Well,
the word
okay,
troupe. So a lot of directors prefer
we
working with the same crew and cast.
Yeah, exactly.
in
well,
multiple
just
films.
but think about
So,
your
yeah.
regular job. You have people that you would prefer to work with at
Right.
your job. It's the same. It's the same thing. We work well together. We have a good relationship outside of work. There's no catty bullshit. Nobody's trying to step on one another's lines. Blah blah blah. Blah. There's no there's no ego. You're my pal. I want to make you some money. I think you'll make me some money by being a part of my project. What else are you going to do? You're going to reach out and touch someone, and hopefully they respond in kind. It's the whole thing is just so goofy to me. Nobody gets mad at Brad Pitt and George Clooney for doing buddy movies, you know, which is what they're all good. This is the rest of their lives now. They're just going to be in each other's
Pretty
films.
much.
Who cares? It's great. We have a good time. We have a laugh. They're great on the red carpet. Who gives a shit?
Yeah.
Everybody
Brad
needs
Pitt
to
gets
stop.
to eat a bunch of snacks, and it's all good.
Right. All the snacks.
I love how he wrote that into his character in Ocean's 11. I'm like, yeah, I'd probably do that too.
Yeah, that's probably me too, because like I high metabolism. I'm always like snacking on something. That's my default. Anyway,
well, and Robert Downey did that in Avengers. They said he had
Pretty
snacks
much.
hidden all over the set. So
all
Blueberry.
over the set.
And again, when you work with your buddies, you can do that. So everybody.
He also left
it.
jars of piss all over the set, although that was in Zodiac, not in Avengers. Fun fact. That's actually a thing, because what happened was David Fincher, I don't know if Zodiac was the first digital movie he dealt with, but Robert Downey Jr. didn't, because like when you're dealing with film, you only have a certain amount of film to deal with, so you have to like take it out, reset it, and that takes like a fucking hour to do. Okay, not an hour, but like it takes a lot of time, and that gives like actors a break. But David Fincher, who's an unrelenting like fucking egomaniac on a set, and then he also
very well known
primarily deals with digital, which like you take out a card and then you insert another card, boom, there you go. So as a like rebellious sort of thing, in a very Robert Downey Jr. sort of way, is that he couldn't take a bathroom break, so he would leave jars of piss all over the set just as a fuck you to David Fincher. Which, I mean, I love David Fincher. The man is extraordinarily talented. However, he's also an asshole.
Yeah, he likes to work his employees like Amazon does. But okay, let's move on to this other story that I'd pulled up a minute ago. We got to talk about Frank Grillo again, of course, because he's a big part of the DCU. He's gonna be in the first 3 projects in the DCU: Creature Commandos, Superman, and Peacemaker Season 2. So he's been talking about recently his experience over with Marvel, and again why he's looking forward to the DC experience. And of course, not just looking forward to it, he has been having the DC experience for like the past year or so. And one of the biggest things he likes about his DC role is that he's not just being used as a plot device, which I would say he was a plot device in both of those movies, like both Captain America movies, The Winter Soldier, as well as, and even more so, the Civil War. So I agree that, I mean, they're doing more with him. At least, I mean, again, we haven't seen any of those projects yet, so I guess we'll be the judge when they do come out. But John, what are your thoughts on this? Like,
I mean,
I know what you're gonna say.
That's literally what I was saying before. Like, he's getting treated better than the shit fucks down the street. Like I might refuse to see Deadpool and Wolverine. I have seen many of the memes from that movie, and you know what? Even if the movie's trash, you got the memes for it, so I'm cool with that.
John, just see the fucking movie already. This is ridiculous.
No,
it's a dumb hill to die on, buddy. Come on.
I will die on the hill. It's
dumb.
okay.
D-U-M, dumb.
What I'll say is, so let me read out the Frank Grillo quote here real quick. So if you guys are listening to the show, that you know what we're talking about. It's just being really involved in such a great way from the beginning, so I have a chance to be in the embryonic stages of this in a big capacity and not just used as a plot device and then shunned away. So in this thing, you can't do it without Rick Flag Sr., the way James has set it up, and that is really, to me, important, and I'm grateful for it. I take it very seriously. I tell James and Peter this all the time. Whatever you guys got planned, I'm game. So look, we all know that Frank Grillo is a hard worker. The dude does like half a dozen movies a year, if not more, and then he might be making appearances on a bunch of other TV shows and stuff too. So he definitely fills up his schedule. He works hard on set. So he's got a good work ethic, and of course he's a good actor. I wouldn't say he's the greatest thespian the DC could ever have, but certainly I think as far as bringing in an actor who's worth the amount of money you're going to pay them to do the job, Frank Grillo, I think, passes the bar more than enough. So to that end, Liz, and I wanted to ask you, what do you think about his comments here? Because as a Marvel fan, did you feel like Frank Grillo was underutilized? And then and if so, then are you looking forward to seeing more of him in a bigger capacity in the new DCU?
Oh, I'm totally excited. I love Frank. I'm really looking forward to seeing him. I mean, I get where he's coming from, but again, at the same time, like when the DC is here handing you 3 major projects back to back, you're not exactly going to sit there and be like and give Marvel their flowers. You know what I mean? Like, so I understand why he has to kind of distance himself from that experience, but he's not wrong. He wasn't in it nearly as much. They didn't really make him a side character. It was just kind of like, he was here for a couple seconds and that was about it. So they're giving him more opportunities in DC, and I'm here for it.
Yeah. No, I think this is great because again, oh, well, goodbye, guys. It's just me. Oh no, never mind. So, I don't know what happened there. Like, StreamYard being StreamYard. But yeah, it's just fun to see him gushing about James Gunn and the DCU at large. And again, not just thanking James Gunn, but also Peter Safran, because Peter Safran is a big part of the process. He doesn't get talked about much because he's mostly usually in the background, but nonetheless, Peter Safran, I'm sure, is doing a lot more work than we probably will give him credit for, because as a producer, a lot of your work usually goes unnoticed. And when as a producer you make the headlines, that's usually when there's a problem. So that just means to me that Peter Safran is doing a bang up job with everything so far in the young DC studios, that is. So let's keep it rolling here. I wanted to kind of move on to this Aaron Pierre story. It's just a little quote, but I think it's significant because, of course, he's going to be our first live action John Stewart in the Lantern series that's meant to start filming next year. He was only cast in the role like a month or so ago. Like, it seems like maybe a couple of months ago. It feels like it wasn't that long ago. And it based on the synopsis, and even when you look at Kyle Chandler being an older Hal Jordan, it seems like Aaron Pierre is going to stick around as the Green Lantern of the DCU for a long time to come. So with that said, the pressure is on him, and he's of course still hitting the gym. He's doing a lot of great work outside of the DC Studios brand and the DCU. But I think it's encouraging to see when he says something like, "I will do my best to serve this character." And I like the wording that he uses, to serve this character. And to that, and I mean, John, I wanted to get your reaction on this. We've seen some footage of him in the gym. We have seen him talk about Lantern since he has been cast. James Gunn has gushed about him and how the casting process. It wasn't like they went and plucked him, out of a crowd simply because he went and saw Rebel Ridge. No, they went through the whole process and they cast him because he really, really performed well in all the screen tests and auditions. So, what are your thoughts again on Aaron Pierre? And then again, just it seems like he's very dedicated to the role already.
Yeah, it seems I like the wording too. He'll try his best. He's not like totally confirming like, yeah, I'm gonna be the greatest John Stewart you've ever fucking seen. I like fuck everybody else. I'm John Stewart. I'm the greatest Green Lantern. Blah, blah, blah. He doesn't like do that like fucking Kanye LeBron shit where he's just like, I'm the greatest ever. Fuck all y'all. Nothing like that. And I appreciate that. Like, like the Rachel Zeglers of the world. And so I appreciate that. And then serve the character. He knows he's just one of many, of a pantheon of John Stewarts have appeared. Not many, but quite a few. And so he's like, I'm going to serve this character that has been here longer than I have and will be now. I am a part of that history and ongoing history and contemporary like nature of the character. And it's a character that will live on, hopefully, long after me. And so I'm just inserting myself here, going to try my best. And then however long that lasts, I hope for a very long time, I'm going to serve this character well. And then I'm going to dip out. So,
Yeah.
I respect that. I don't respect his fashion choices because goddamn, what in the fuck is he wearing? But
it looks like a raincoat.
It looks like a high-end
green.
raincoat that probably costs more than all 3 of our bank accounts combined. But I think yeah, Frank Grillo, yeah, I've heard he's good in Tulsa King. But yeah, I appreciate that. I think he'll do a good job, and go for it, my guy. We're really, really excited to see you in whatever you have to do with this character.
Yeah, I'm excited to again, get the first glimpse of the show when they start filming, and maybe we'll get some behind the scenes, set photos. And Liz, as somebody again who isn't necessarily as well versed with the Green Lantern character or the mythos, of course we recently saw that they put up a bronze statue of the John Stewart Green Lantern out in Burbank alongside. I think there's a
Right.
Wonder Woman and a Batman statue out there as well. So this character obviously is very important to DC, has always been, but we haven't really seen a live action iteration before. We have seen the Hal Jordan version with Ryan Reynolds, and now we're gonna get Hal Jordan, an older Hal Jordan with Kyle Chandler. But it's, I think for a lot of people, they grew up watching the animated Justice League shows, and that's where they knew their John Stewart from. But now Aaron Pierce steps into a role, a very iconic role. I would say but a good comparison to this would be when Gal Gadot got cast as Wonder Woman, right? The first time you saw one of the most iconic comic book characters of all time be in a live action situation for a movie. I know that there was a Wonder Woman TV show,
Right, the show,
but
yeah.
here even more so, we have not really seen a live action, John Stewart ever before. So what are your thoughts on this? Are you looking forward to a show like Lanterns where it's a little cosmic, it's a true detective-esque story? What are your thoughts on Aaron Pierre?
Yeah, because honestly, the only thing that I know of the Lantern story is the Hal Jordan version, is the from the Ryan Reynolds film. A couple of my friends were big fans of Lanterns growing up, so like I had heard bits and pieces, and they kind of gave me the backstory about they come from different worlds and all that kind of thing. But again, it's a new character for me. So I'm looking forward to learning some more and delving more into the DC universe. So it's all good in my opinion, and I'm very excited for Aaron Pierre. I think he's going to do a good job, and he looks so much like the comic version that it's a no-brainer. And all the fans, I'm sure, are really happy that he's been cast. So I think it'll be a good time.
Yeah, I agree with you 100%. And Buster Barnes seems to know what he's doing now, because we all know John's opinions of Tom King. He's like, in brightest day and blackest night, get Tom King out of John's sight. It rhymes. It works. I'm okay with that. We can put that on a T-shirt. So let's keep going here. Actually, you know what? I tried to load up the Hollywood Reporter article that was sourced from, and I couldn't really figure out like where the quote was. So I'm gonna close that out. But let's move over to this story here, which is relating to a Batman fan film that's out there. Batman Beyond Year One is now playing. John, you have some information on this. Tell us where we can watch it. I think it's on YouTube, but you can confirm that for us. And tell us a little bit more about what this movie is. And I feel like I've heard about it before, but I haven't seen it yet. So what is your level of anticipation?
I haven't seen it yet either, but it just goes to show like fans just says like, all right, fine, I'll do it myself, since Warner Brothers keeps fucking pussyfooting around this amazing character that they for some reason just won't do, even though the fucking two storyboard artists from Across the Spider-Verse are like, here's the greatest animated film that you could ever produce. Meanwhile, Warner Bros. Is like, we'll think about it. Jurassic League, guys, let's do it. So it's just, I think it's real. I mean, yeah, some fan films can be really bad, like that Spider-Man one that came out last year, which was like the worst thing since Cancer. And then I think Superman Solar was also like really bad. But it's hit or miss, but like the passion is there. It's it's respectable. It's nice to see. And then Ryan Potter, who played Beast Boy in the god awful Titans show, it's he's trying to from a fan point of view get his due again, because God knows it wasn't the Titan show. But I think I think this is really awesome. It's just like, hey guys, go watch it. Like, this is just like a kind of a bonus little thing. Like, go watch it. It's probably really cool. It's probably at least fun. So yeah, just here you go. Here, have a fun time. That's all.
Yeah, no, I mean, to me, the biggest thing about fan films is like that Spider-Man movie last year, which, look, that Spider-Man fan film was terrible on many levels. But I've seen other fan films, like I've seen Batman fan films, not this one, but like there's others, and maybe some other characters from Marvel as well. And to me, what always seems to be their biggest problem, they'll get the costumes right because fans love. It's like they love cosplay, so like they will do a good job with the costume. And they sometimes will get the cinematography right too, but most of the time that's really, you could see the budget in the movie. But my biggest problem usually ends up being like the dialogue is terrible, because it's usually made by like super fans of comic books, and then they take the dialogue almost from the page straight to screen. So you start hearing characters monologuing, which kills the pacing, or saying things that make absolutely no sense when you're actually saying them out loud, because humans don't talk that way, but it sounds better if it's written in a novel or a comic book. So like those things always throw me off. So to me, I'm cautiously optimistic. Well, I'll tune into this, I'll put it on YouTube, and I'll give it a shot. But I honestly, I do wonder how good it actually is. Knowing that somebody like Ryan Potter, who was in the Titan show, is involved, somewhat gives me hope, because of course, it's not like the Titan show was the greatest thing in the world. Far from it. But hey, at least he's got a few Hollywood credits on his schedule. So let's see. We'll see. I mean, if any of you guys have seen this, let us know in the comments. What am I, some kind of Batman Beyond? Maybe that's what they do with it. I don't know
Ryan
if there's a
Potter, not
trailer
Will
for
Smith
this.
starring in it. That's...
Antonio in the chat has been talking about how John Diggle in the Arrowverse was later found out to be John Stewart, which I'm like,
yeah,
no,
there
he
was
wasn't.
like a whole like
we don't talk about that. Like, let's just.
It was like a whole thing
yeah.
of like a whole kit and caboodle, like, oh, because his stepdad was named Stewart, but in this universe he didn't like his stepdad, so he didn't take the name Stewart. So now he's just known as John. It's like, oh my god, like you're really just like it's some fan theory on fucking Tumblr. It's like, oh, he's black and his name is John. He's definitely a green. He's gonna be John Stewart. He's a Green Lantern. It's like, okay, and then they went with it. It's like, I feel like Mark Guggenheim just went through like all these like fucking Tumblr fan theories. Oh, Olicity, that definitely should be a thing. Oh, John Stewart is Diggle, that should definitely be a thing. It's just like, guys, like what are we doing? Like, I blame Mark Guggenheim, but it's like, guys, oh, he's black and his name is John. Like that totally makes sense.
I think it was one of those things where they were like, oh wait, now fans are theorizing, but we didn't plan for this, but this could work. And of course, those shows often were short on ideas and big on hype. So especially once they got past like the first couple of seasons, for the Arrow show, for the Flash, I think after season 3 that went downhill. But I digress. Let's talk about the big characters in the room, right? Superman and Batman, the two most iconic superheroes of all time. You will ask most people, you look at a Superman logo, they know who that is. The Batman symbol, they know who that is. And of course, DC has always led the way with those characters. We are now, of course, starting to get a lot of other characters like Lanterns and such, of course, Peacemaker. But James Gunn has been asked quite a lot, as you can imagine. What about an origin story for both Superman and Batman? Because we are wondering, fuck the Penguin, we are wondering, are we going to get to see how Superman becomes Superman in Superman next year? And then, of course, are we going to get to find out how Batman became Batman in Batman Brave and the Bold? Now, James Gunn has said, no, we're not really going to find out because people already know about it. He said, I'm not telling Batman and Superman's origin stories, again, because everyone knows them. I mean, look, to his point, even in the Zack Snyder DCEU, in Batman versus Superman, they have the montage of Batman's origin, like in terms of his parents' death and stuff, at the beginning of the movie, but they don't really show him like going to the training and becoming Batman. They sort of skipped over it and only did it in like some flashbacks. So even back in the DCEU, there was a level of awareness around the fact that, hey, we have seen how Batman becomes Batman, so we don't need to see that again. And it's like the same thing with Spider-Man over in the MCU. They didn't really show us how Peter Parker, got bit by a spider and then, started crawling on walls and then, eventually figured out how to make web shooters. Like, I'm like, give me that explanation. Like, how does that work? Because at least in the Tobey Maguire one, he was like on a rooftop being like,
you guys can't do that?
I still remember, I'm like, it makes sense, like versus the web things. Like they kind of skipped over it in the Andrew Garfield one too. Because they were like, okay, Oscorp made them, so he just sort of like, retconned.
Well, they made the fluid. He made the web shooter part.
Right, but what I'm saying is like, they never kind of show, because the ultimately the idea is it comes out of Peter Parker, like whatever.
Your web fluid is made inside of your body. Does it come out of any place else?
Yeah, exactly. So anyway, the point is, like, for both Superman and Batman, of course, we've had the origin story in Man of Steel. We have seen the origin story going back to the iconic Superman movie with Christopher Reeves in 1978. And of course, we've also seen in flashbacks, the Superman origin story in Superman and Lois, the TV show, and there's been so many examples of the Batman origin story in virtually every iteration. So I understand that they don't want to do this, and James Gunn's reasoning. I'll start with you, Liz. Again, kind of comparing it to both instances in Marvel as well as DC.
Yeah.
Between the three characters, Superman, Spider-Man, and Batman, we have seen so many iterations. Do you agree with James again that you really don't need to repeat the origin story and we can just kind of skip forward a little bit? I mean, even the Fantastic Four, it seems like they're not going to do that next year either. So like it seems to be the common theme right now.
No, 100%. Like been there, done that. We get it. We like the character. We don't need to keep going back to the same well. Like it's the same thing like how I keep talking about how I want new characters. I want fresh characters. I know who Lex Luger is. I know who these main villains are. I want the side characters. I want the ones that the true diehard comics know and love. So or comic fans know and love. So I just 100%. Unless there's a comic book version out there where they have a completely different origin story that no one's ever bothered to explore and bring to Hollywood, then fine. But we know it. They're both orphans. One's from a extinct planet. The other one watched his parents die. Okay, too bad, so sad. Thanks for saving the universe. I mean, we get it. We know what's up. So move along. Let's, like.
No, exactly.
And I think that's why historically, aside from, the Christopher Nolan Batmans, the Christopher Reeve Supermans were iconic in that, it was the first time we've ever had like a real superhero film franchise. And it blew everybody's minds. But like, I think that's why the Superman franchise since then has really not done so well, because it's just constantly the same story, just with a different face. And it's like, cool, we get it. I think that's also why, like Superman and Lois did so well, was because it explored a completely different storyline.
Exactly. They sort of skip forward.
Yeah.
Right.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly. So I think they're absolutely right to skip over that part and fast forward because we know all of it already. So let's move along.
Yeah. And I mean, John, not only do I want your thoughts on, again, just the Superman and Batman origin story, but if you look at the quote from James Gunn, he also continues to say, and don't put Swamp Thing in the corner. That's a project in development we have actually announced, and he's an incredibly well-known character with not only some of the greatest comics of all time, but a successful film series and his own TV show, even though it only lasted like one season, the more recent one at least.
Well, he's technically had two TV shows. He's had two movies and two TV shows. One lasted 3 seasons, the other lasted...
And then James Gunn says, that's something that could be said of only a very small handful of DC characters. So he sort of said this about not just Batman and Superman, but also Swamp Thing, that maybe the Swamp Thing movie doesn't need to be an origin story either, potentially. Like you can maybe.
I mean, I can kind of see that with the show, but like not everybody watched the show. But I mean, I guess you don't really know, because the thing is, nobody really cares about Alec Holland, because it's like we care about Swamp Thing. We don't really care about, he was a human at one point. And now nobody remembers the fucking Wes Craven movie, so that's an interesting way to do it. But like I understand, like you don't need to have an origin for everything, and Swamp Thing is another kind of interesting one. I would say out of the 5 announced projects, the one that makes the most sense is the Authority, because nobody fucking knows the Authority, and they were.
I don't think it's like the Guardians of the
comics.
Galaxy. We have never seen them before in live action. I would say they're in the same category. So yeah. But I will say again, James Gunn, confirming and reconfirming to fans that yes, everybody already knows them. It's just good to know that we're not gonna, again, like Liz said, we're not gonna get to see Superman become Superman, like Clark Kent go through the process. Look, as much as I loved how they treated that whole aspect of the character in Man of Steel, I don't necessarily know if I want to sit through that again. And when you look back, I mean, I think I use the Spider-Man example again because those movies have like rebooted so close together.
Well, and the Hulk too, the Incredible Hulk too. Like
they just did a montage.
We get it, yeah.
Yeah, like in the MCU Hulk movie, the Incredible Hulk, they just did a montage in the intro alongside in the intro credits, and then they were like, all right, well, now here we are, and let's move on with the story. And even with Andrew Garfield's Spider-Man, they had an origin, but it was just different enough that they went through it. But it felt like it wasn't the same thing. So I understood that they did that with both Tobey Maguire and Andrew Garfield. But then like we talked about with Tom Holland, by the time Tony Stark meets him and the rest of the fans meet him in the MCU, he's already Spider-Man, even though he might not have the best suit. And the same could, hopefully we will have something similar where Superman, Clark is already Superman at the beginning of the movie next year, and then we kind of maybe get flashbacks, maybe where it makes sense. I wouldn't want them to sort of ram them in there. And of course, we know that we're gonna get an older Batman, similar to the DCEU, where we got a Batman in his 40s or maybe late 30s, early 40s, and they never quite showed his, origin. In fact, in the
I thought it was a
DCEU
Batman in his 50s, at least.
No, I think he was meant to be in his 40s. I mean, and of course we know he had a dead Robin, so there was a history. He has already done a lot. He has well, you might be right. He could be late 40s because he was like 20 years in Gotham, Alfred, and what have we learned or something. It's like how many good guys stayed.
How many good guys are left? How many have stayed that way?
If there's
even a 1% chance, we have to take that as an absolute certainty. That's not how percents work, Batman. Yeah. World's greatest detective, my ass. Yeah,
it sounded
world's
good.
Greatest detective, not world's greatest mathematician, because that's not how percents work. 1% is quite literally the opposite of absolute certainty.
I mean, we're not reading the comics for math, so.
That's true.
Unless it features the calculator.
I mean, and Jay Kelly saying in the chat, no origins needed. I agree with you. We all agree with you. I don't think 100%. We really need to go there. TC24 was like, well, Ben Affleck's Bruce Wayne was more, Thomas Wayne than he was, Bruce Wayne. Which, I mean, I guess because they were trying to play off the whole idea that one of his Robins had already been killed, so he was very jaded. Of course, then he started believing in hope by the end of BVS. So there's that. Let's keep the ball rolling here. Staying with the character of Superman, guys. James Gunn. Yesterday we talked about this, John. I didn't really bring this up because the auction had already ended at the time when we started the show. But James Gunn had put up essentially 2 tickets and to the Superman premiere party, and also an after party. So you could have bid on it on eBay, and of course, the proceeds from it would go to supporting wounded veterans for homes for our troops. So we now know, and James Gunn posted about it, as you can see here, that he doesn't know who won the auction, but we talked about it on the show yesterday, that the winning bid was for $20,100. That's a 5-figure sum to go watch Superman in the same theater as James Gunn and the cast, and then go to the after party and hopefully get to schmooze with them. So what do you think about this list? Because you weren't here on the show yesterday. Do you think this is, I mean, obviously it's great that they're doing this. It's for a worthy cause, but what are your thoughts on this?
It's fantastic. I think it's amazing. And that's really, really cool. And I hope it's somebody deserving. I also hope, I kind of hope that it's like some random celeb that's gonna, like, maybe it's like Robert Downey Jr. or something. Like, I think that'd be really funny, but I think that's awesome. And it's really cool that they did that for the cause. So hey, I'm all about it. And that's fun for that fan.
I agree. I mean, hopefully it's money well spent, because $20,000, that's a lot of money. John, what are your again, looking at this now from James, like the cause it's supporting, anything to add to that from, and I know we talked about it yesterday, so I don't know if you have too much else to say to this. Obviously, again, for a great cause.
Yeah, I mean, it's ghost charity, so that's always a good thing. I think it's a little crazy that you're spending $20,000, but it's like maybe it's like the guy who who paid for every ticket in a theater to see Force Awakens by himself alone. That I understand more, because it's like, I get it with the amount of people that just won't shut the fuck up. It's just,
I get that, but I mean, AMC will give you a theater like for yourself for a lot less money than that.
It's true. That's true.
It's true. So yeah, I don't know if you need to spend that kind of money. But hey, again, great cause, and I'm glad that they're doing stuff like this. I mean, look, I'm not gonna, it's not an A to B comparison, but like, a lot of the, fans, the good Snyder fans did a lot of good charity work, raising funds before the Snyder Cut was released. And so it's always good when, fans, because us comic book fans or comic book movie fans are a very passionate bunch, and when, you direct that passion to a good cause, it's always results in, people who deserve the help or need the money, or it's a festive time of the year. I think we should all be trying to help each other out as much as possible. And it's another great headline to see that
Jay
DC
Kelly
is
just being
doing the right thing.
just an asshole. It's a write-off. I'm like, all right, just
well,
I mean, okay, you don't.
You're not wrong.
Like,
you're not wrong.
It's going to
by
a
the
good
way,
cause. Shut up, man.
Exactly.
Why you gotta be like that?
By the way, in the chat, Hugo suggested Jodie Comer for Jenny Sparks, and now Antonio suggesting Lily James as Jenny Sparks.
I suggested both for
our
authority thing.
Exactly. Well, we're gonna get into that another time. Today we had to fan cast Dr. Fate, but those are all good suggestions, and we'll keep them in mind. But before we get to that, I wanted to address this rumor really quickly because James Gunn would probably just outright be like, don't listen to Grace. She is a bad person and she never gets things right, because James Gunn really does not like Grace Randolph. So,
yeah.
However, there was this story that got put out, and Grace, put the word out that the Superman trailer will be releasing to the press on Monday, December the 9th, which I believe is like 2.5 weeks away. So again, big time rumor. Take it with a grain of salt. I want to get your opinion on this, Liz. What are your thoughts on A, Grace Randolph's reliability, and B, does this even make sense to you that it would be coming on December 9th? And it would be just for press members? Like, can you imagine, like, okay, so the world doesn't get to see it, but the press members do? Like, what's the definition there? Like, it's not like the movie's coming out next month. What are your thoughts on this?
I mean, I don't know, girlfriend. I don't care. I was kicked off X right when Elon took over because I haven't posted in a million years, so I don't see any of that crap. Really don't care. Also, the release date, again, especially if it's only released to press members, okay, it's, again, no effect in my world. So I know we're all going to see it eventually. So this isn't news to me. I don't care.
John,
means
your
nothing.
thoughts on
Means nothing in my
I
world.
mean, it would be kind of interesting as it's one step forward, but however, as a great man once said, the earth revolves around the sun, parents will love their children, and Grace Randolph will spout bullshit. So I don't think there's even a grain of salt to be had unless that grain of salt is the size of our sun. So I'm gonna say,
who is she, and why do we give a shit what she has to say?
She's a very well-known, like, rumor mill kind of,
who cares? Listen, people. The reason people like Grace get famous is because y'all keep following her and retweeting her and commenting.
Exactly.
If she sucks, stop giving her attention. Maybe she'll stop sucking. I don't know. But I don't have time for people like that. Like, please, what a waste. There's enough going on in the world.
Yeah,
please,
it's just like she's just one of these like rumor mill, rage bait, clickbait kind of people that like everyone from left, right, and middle have said that she's the worst person, and like she's somehow still famous, and it's just like, how about you stop watching? I don't watch her, and I'm a happier person because of it.
Well, you know what? Shame on us for even sharing this story, because she's clearly a waste of everybody's fucking time. So I don't care. Whatever.
Grace is Jay Kelly. Grace has been batting 0.000 on DCU content since James and Peter took over. Is she
a DC hater? Is she just a troll? Is that why she can't?
She's kind of a troll. She kind of falls in. She's not purposefully a troll.
Let's not waste our time then. Then let's not waste our time. What a lame.
It's just fun to dunk on Grace because it's just like low hanging fruit, I guess.
But that's just it. We don't need the low hanging fruit. Let's move along. What a waste. I have no time for people like that.
She hates James Gunn because he called her a fraud, which fair.
Clearly she is. Whatever.
So Dan immediately going to the next story. Anyway, something on a brighter note. Bitsy Tulloch shared this little tidbit that Superman and Lois is the 5th most watched show on Max, only behind Doom Prophecy, which is the newest, big like IP. Then the Penguin, which unfortunately, dwindled a bit because, it's
because of Dan's negative press. It's all because of Dana.
And then the Harry Potter Wizards of Bacon. I have heard that that's a lot of fun.
It's actually super cute. I watched it at my nail salon this week for the
It's
first time. It's
James
adorable.
and
I want to
Philip
watch that
something
show.
or
And,
I
and
forget.
can I
James
just
and Oliver
just as
Phillips,
an
I think.
aside, the Wizards of Baking, the way they have that, it's a different structure from normal like baking competition shows, which is really freaking cool. So it's got kind of like a little twist on it. I really dig it. You guys should check it out.
Yeah,
But
and
no,
then I've never heard like water for chocolate. I've never heard of that. But number 5, I didn't even know. I wasn't even aware it was on Max. I thought it went to Max after it aired.
I
So
think
that's nice
that
to
might
see.
be that might still be the case, but
I think that changed though recently with the last season. It's like when the CW ownership changed hands, then I don't think Superman Lois's rights weren't quite tied to the CW in the same way the other Arrowverse shows were. Somebody can correct me in the chat here, but I do believe like you can watch it there. Oh really, Antonio? CM Punk? Is he? Okay, that would make sense.
when
But
did,
so
can I
only-
ask, when did the first episode drop of Superman and Lois? Because Dune Prophecy is extremely new to the channel, which is why I think it's so
2021.
high.
2021
Okay.
was the first episode.
Yeah.
well, no,
So-
this
It's
season
not
the
on
first
Max, by the
episode
way.
is
So this is
yeah.
just the first.
This is
3
just a previous.
seasons.
Okay.
Okay.
Yeah.
But again, so my point is Dune Prophecy is brand spanking new,
Mhm.
which is why it's got, I think it's at the number 1 spot.
Same with
because
the Penguin,
It's got all
even
the
though it's
hype.
over.
Right, and the Penguin just wrapped. So I think that's, and again, same thing, the Harry Potter Wizards of Baking just started. So I think that's really
Yeah.
cool to see that Superman and Lois, what you said, seasons 1 through 3 are out
Yep.
on Max only. So that's an amazing place for them to be at for essentially a rewatch or a restream.
And
So
like
that's
Water
really
for
cool.
Chocolate is on. I think this is new. It says 2024. There's only 3 episodes, so I think that's still going.
What
It's an
is it?
HBO original. It's about it's based on a novel, and it's about like a romance.
I haven't really heard of that one.
Oh,
I
a
feel like
never
I've heard
magical
of
realism.
because I feel like I've heard almost all the other shows. Obviously, Dune Prophecy is big, and it just premiered recently. Fuck the Penguin. Like Water for Chocolate, we're talking about. Harry Potter Wizard of Baking. I want to see that show so bad. That's one of those shows where I'm like, I want to watch that with somebody else. It's like a holiday show. I don't want to just sit there by myself watching it. Superman
It's
Lois, of
true.
course. It narrowly beats out From, which I really loved the first season of From, and I haven't caught up with it since. But I didn't even realize they put From on HBO because it's like it was an MGM show, so it's on MGM Plus, and you can even watch it on Amazon. But it's
Yeah.
interesting that it's doing so well even on HBO. I mean, credit to that show for doing what it's doing because it
Well,
started
and
on
same
such
thing
a small
with
streaming
what we do
service.
on the with what we do in the shadows. The fact that
Right.
that's on there in the top 10, that's wild because
That is
they're
wild.
just wrapping their last season.
Mhm.
But yeah, well, and like Water for Chocolate apparently is a romance. So that's like probably all the Hallmark ladies. But yeah, I think that's really cool that they're in the 5th spot compared to all these brand spanking new projects. That's really awesome.
Yeah, it is great. Again, just seeing that a DC property is doing so well, and I'm
I
not
guess
talking
now
about
I
the
have to
Penguin
watch
because
it.
fuck the Penguin. But yeah, Superman and Lois is on there. The 4th season will show up eventually once it finishes airing on the CW, and you can watch all of these shows on Max. I think Max is now also launching in Asia and Australia, I believe. Like there are certain parts of the world where you still don't have Max, so like you'd have to watch like the Penguin or other Warner Brothers shows like Game of Thrones or even Dune Prophecy on something like an Amazon Prime or something. Now they're starting to roll out in other parts of the world, and so hopefully you guys can get yourself a subscription to Max when that does happen. Now, of course, we have to move on to our big fan casting of the day, John, because you picked out a few really, really good names, I think, including, of course, I mentioned earlier Pierce Brosnan. But I won't, we will go
Yes.
in the order that you suggested.
Yeah.
Let's talk about, Dr. Fate. Dr. Fate is a
Yes.
character that we last saw in Black Adam, which did not make nearly as much money, or nor did it
The
change
hierarchy
of the DC
was left unchanged.
universe. But it was still, I think a really intriguing take on the character. Pierce Brosnan did such a fantastic job with it, and I really liked how they stayed so true to the comic book iteration of the suit. And then, of course, even the origin story of the character, the way they described it, seemed, very much in line with what we are used to seeing in the comics. But as a character now, there's a lot of, promise. I think back when Black Adam came out, there were a lot more comparisons to Doctor Strange because the Doctor Strange movie was about to come out. I think now that Multiverse of Madness is out of the way, and we don't know if we're gonna even get another Doctor Strange solo adventure. We know that he's probably gonna be in the Avengers movies, and now that, more importantly, we have a new DC universe. How easy do you think it would be to bring in a character like Doctor Fate, and then, of course, tell us a little bit more about the character too, because for those of us who might not be as familiar, I want to get your opinion on just how awesome or maybe not awesome Doctor Fate actually is.
Yeah, Doctor Fate he's very, very similar to Doctor Strange.
Doctor
like
Strange,
it's
yeah.
like he's a pretty, it's Doctor,
Yeah.
like both are like old sorcerer-esque people. It depends on who you ask. Many people say Doctor Strange is the better character. Some people say Doctor Fate is the better character. I believe Doctor Fate is more powerful, but Doctor Strange is, less of a dick, which is saying something. But I think both are really cool characters. And I definitely want to see the magic side of the DC universe. I just think it's a really cool like side to that universe that hasn't really been explored that much. And I think I just think that would be really cool. Now, I'm going off of the reason when we went with Dr. Fate and some of the other characters we've talked about, like Black Canary and Martian Manhunter, is that they were part of the Justice League International team, and the Justice League International team, James Gunn was heavily inspired by that version. Now, in that version, I think the one that's go back one. I think that's the one that was in Justice League International was Eric and Linda Strauss. I think Eric possessed the helmet and Linda Strauss was the body. It was two people sharing one body, I believe it was. So, however, due to the fact that the Kent Nelson version is much more popular, and this was kind of like, I don't even think they're canon anymore. So I believe that yes, Dr. Fate was created first. Another case of Marvel, there's been rumor mill that like Doctor Strange was a ripoff of Dr. Fate, but who knows? But I think they would go with Kent Nelson, and the picks I have would be Kent Nelson related. So the first one I have, even though he recently said how he would not be doing action movies anymore because he's getting a lot older, but once I saw this, I'm like, oh, that would be perfect. And the first pick I have for Dr. Fate would be Liam Neeson. I think Liam Neeson would be such an amazing choice because like he has like the action stardom of like dealing with like he's been in a lot of action movies as of late, but the thing is, a lot of people seem to forget he's actually a great actor, not knowing from like all the garbage he's
doesn't do a lot of good movies.
10 years.
Let the man get a check, you guys. Jesus, I've seen every one of those films,
dude,
so shut up.
Liam Neeson is my
exactly
shit.
The same doesn't mean they're still not enjoyable. So
oh yeah, they're enjoyable.
Leave
it's
the
just
man
like
alone.
man was Oscar Schindler, for fuck's sake. Like, show your class, my guy. Sometimes, every once in a while, at least.
Excuse me, all of his assassination films, he's very classy. So stop it. All of his little hitman projects he's been doing, he's still a classy hitman. Cut it out.
But I do believe he would be a great, like, he's again classy. He has that action side. He has he's great actor, and hello. It's me. But yeah, I think Liam Neeson kind of speaks for himself. He's just so like he's always great. Yes, even though he's in like a lot of schlocky action movies, I think he definitely does a good job in a lot of them. It's just like he has that stoicism, that like authoritarian vibe. I think that was the main thing with a lot of these versions, a lot of the actors I picked for this version of the character, because like the authoritarian sort of like, because Dr. Fate is sort of like a pawn of like the Lords of Chaos and Order, and like he has to like, and the problem with Dr. Fate that Doctor Strange doesn't have is Dr. Fate has to like find a balance between chaos and order. Like he can't like he's not a man of his own devices, so he's like kind of stuck in this, like, sometimes he can't do what he needs to or wants to do because the Lords of Chaos and Order are like, no, you can't do that. So it's like it's I think he would have a good balance between like having like an authoritarian vibe of someone who speaks for this sort of thing, but also someone who is like a pawn of this sort of grander, higher plane of existence that they would be forced into. So I think like Liam Neeson could find that balance, and then, you know, being thrown from cars and beating people up can kind of fit for the more superhero aspect of the character. But the problem is he's a little bit too old. He said he's probably not going to be in action movies in the foreseeable future, and he's just
been
like,
saying
you know,
that
I'm
for
just
a decade, and that's all he's been releasing.
I mean, I'm just
lately.
saying what he said.
Again, you cut him a big enough check, he'll show
Josh
up.
Brolin's way too grizzled. He's just like, the thing is that what I think about Dr. Fate, he's like, there's a bit of class to him. There's a little bit of like a little bit of a snobbishness. I could see Michael Fassbender as well. But I wanted to go for much older, and I think Michael Fassbender is a little bit too, like, I wanted someone who had been in like the superhero like game since like the 30s to showcase like he's a golden age character. So, and the fact that the helmet slows his aging showcases like, yeah, he's technically way older than he actually is, and the way we see him, we see that, but he's still not as old from his appearance from what he actually is, because he would be like over 100 years old. So that's what I wanted to see, and I think Liam Neeson would be awesome. And yeah, although maybe if he was like maybe a couple years younger, it would be better, but I still think it would be great.
He can pull it off, but I feel like you've got other names on your list that might be better picks. Like, let's get to the next one. Who else do you think might be a good fit? Because
if we're talking about someone who's very like classy but also authoritarian, I think Viggo Mortensen would be absolutely amazing. And he's right in that sweet spot. He's not too old like Liam Neeson, but he's not like super young like like in the realm of what I imagine like Michael Fassbender. So I mean, he was fucking Aragorn. Like, do I really need to explain myself here? Like, that image right then and there should be, you know, Josh Brolin I could see for Vandal Savage. Most definitely. Josh Brolin for Vandal Savage. He would hit it out of the park with that one. No, ew, what? Gross.
I was just sort of thinking that, Fiona, but no more. He needs to stick to the running and the jumping and the stunts and the almost killing.
Yeah, he's not he's too cool for Dr. Fate. He's not
classy enough.
Yeah, he's not classy enough.
Come on.
No, he's not.
I feel like there's something there's like a class, there's a skit somewhere on a show where they were like classy. And I'm trying to put my finger on like, what are we trying to talk about here when we're talking about classy? But anyway, I'll remember what show I'm thinking of. But Viggo Mortensen, forget, I can't say his last name. What do you think, Liz, about Viggo as potentially Dr. Fate?
No, I don't like it. I don't see it.
You don't think so?
No, especially not now. I feel like, no.
I mean, the last movie that I remember watching him in was The Green Book, right?
Yeah.
And, Tom Hardy.
That's a little bit better, but like again, he's too buff and he's too cool. Like,
yeah,
you know, he's Eddie Brock now. Like, that's
like even like, so the last time he played anything like classy was when he was in Legends, and even then it was like mobster classy. It wasn't like you know, it's not James Bond classy. So
I mean, that's kind of where my head is at, because Pierce Brosnan, he played it so well that
and that's what I'm saying about Viggo. Like Viggo can do, but he can't do like James Bond classy.
But yeah, I imagine that, but like it's kind of like in a different sort of role. I would imagine like, okay, if like Liam Neeson is like kind of classy, I would say Viggo Mortensen, I think, would be more of like sort of like the kingly higher being, the pawn of the higher being, Lords of Chaos and Order. So that's what I was again. I'm kind of imagining like guys who could do it, but like different ways they could handle the character. And I think Viggo Mortensen would be very different from someone like Liam Neeson or something like that. So, but I still think he could handle like sort of that line of, Aragorn-esque, but also do something kind of different from that. Well, he's kind of thin now, so I don't know if he would be yoked as much as Vandal Savage, but like honestly, Dave Bautista could probably do it. George Clooney, honestly,
No.
I think we're being trolled now because look at the next one.
Okay,
they're just getting younger.
He's a little too young still.
He's way too young.
Let's move along because now I'm formulating a list here too. So,
okay. The next one I have is no. The next one I have is someone who deserves another chance at a DC hero after they completely screwed him up in Titans. That's Ian Glenn. Yeah. Ian Glenn, I feel like he would rock it. I think he's the youngest guy on this list. He's 63. But he has like the face. But
how
of
tall
is
he?
Wise, but he is someone wise beyond how that's years, become a qualifier.
He's tall enough to play Bruce Wayne. Okay, so like I think he's okay.
He's 6'1". All right.
Everyone's freezing. I don't know if I'm still there. Okay.
You're freezing. Anyway. Just Ian Glenn, I think, would be as someone who's like has like a more knowledgeable, like kind of he like a very like intelligent character. That's because that's what Kent Nelson is. He's a very, very like intelligent character, not only in regards to sorcery, but in archaeology and all that. And like someone who's like wise beyond his years, like kind of like, well, it'll make more sense with my next pick on who I want to pick for the next guy. But I think Ian Glenn would definitely be a great pick. Like, I just think like he doesn't look too old, but he looks, I mean, look at that. That's just perfect right there.
That's classy.
But I think like he definitely has that raw energy, that intelligence, that I think that would make, but he has the range to make it work. And I think he deserves another shot at a DC hero because like his Batman, I mean, I think Daniel Craig could do it. I think Daniel Craig, I was considered, but I considered him, but I decided not to go with him because my list, I tried to stick with 4 plus Pierce Brosnan coming back. Nicolás Coster-Waldau, I think he would be better as a villain. I think he would be way better as a villain. But yeah, Ian Glenn, he's played a lot of like older timey characters, and I think he's kind of more an underrated actor. And I think he would be great. I think Ian Glenn would be a really good choice for Dr. Fate, the Kent Nelson version. So
yeah,
I don't know if
I think it would work really well. Personally, I really do. It looks like Lizz is back. There was some internet glitch. Oh, and she's frozen again.
She's still freezing.
She's frozen again. Well, let's keep the ball rolling here, John. We have a couple of more picks to get through. Who else do you have on your list?
Well, I only have one more. And I was talking about an old man wise beyond his years, and might as well pick an old man in a box, I had to, but it's not because he played another doctor. It's like, I just genuinely believe that I know he played the Thinker in Suicide Squad. What?
She's like Daniel Craig as anything, and I'm like, it works. I'm okay with that. I don't know.
I've heard Devil's Hour is excellent, and I know it's just like Peter Capaldi is just such an exemplary actor,
and he's already been in a DC project with James Gunn.
So like that's definitely something, but I don't know if the Suicide Squad is like canon or not.
I don't care if it's canon or not. All I'm saying is James Gunn and Peter Capaldi have worked together before. There's a relationship there that they can lean on. Like professionally, they know each other. They clearly spend a lot of time on set. I think that could, work in his favor potentially if he does this. And I think for me, in terms of the physicality of the role, Peter Capaldi can really do a good job
Yeah.
of that. So
I think
the
he
silhouette
has,
of Peter Capaldi matches well with the Dr. Fate silhouette. So
he's played someone who has a lot of intelligence, wise beyond his years, someone who's a lot older than he appears to be, but as well as a very like bitter and angry sort of person. It's just like he has the range for it, and like he's just so good in whatever he is, in whatever he does, that I think, and again, I'm not just picking this as a Doctor Who fan. I'm not just picking this because he was a just Doctor stuff. I do genuinely believe that he's just that good of an actor that I think Dr. Fate would be a really good pick for him. He's a little bit older than Ian Glenn. He's about 66, same as Viggo Mortensen. But I think he maybe needs to, like, I wouldn't say he needs to buff up, but I think that would be a little bit nice. But
the thing is, you don't need to do a lot of hand-to-hand combat, and if you, I think there's one more person.
I think Jason Isaacs would be better as Brainiac, in my opinion, or Sinestro.
Do a really creepy Brainiac. Brainiac with Jason Isaacs would be a really good pick. But Peter Capaldi, I think it would be great. I mean, the character that he played in the Suicide Squad is, I'm not saying he is anywhere close to Dr. Fate, but like in terms of like his powers, there's a little bit of overlap. So I wouldn't mind necessarily seeing him back in the world of the DCU, especially because how canon the Suicide Squad is a little iffy. And Buster Barnes pointing out, like, James Gunn is probably going to leave that part open-ended, because if they end up, recasting, what's her name, Margot Robbie, as Harley Quinn, then, what about all these other characters, right? Buster Barnes is like Joe Biden. Okay, we're not going to go.
We need someone who's
political
intelligent.
Arena. John, just we don't address politics in this.
Yes, let's move on.
I'm sorry I even mentioned that on the.
Let's move on. Here. Let's move on.
But Jay's saying, rightfully so, Dr. Fate is not doing a lot of hand fighting. So I think you can really go with somebody who doesn't need to.
I've said this many times before, even guys who don't do that, there is like the sort of like physicality when it comes to superhero roles, I think, is that like the appearance that somebody gives is like, okay, like someone who can like handle themselves, and that's like a buff thing. Andrew Garfield, too much twink energy. Benicio del Toro, I think, does not he's better at villains. And then I also mentioned, like, I would be open to Pierce Brosnan coming back. I know that, Black Adam,
yes,
I know Black Adam is not canon anymore and all that shit, but like, I mean, Pierce Brosnan, he was so good. I going into Black Adam, I was like, this movie's probably gonna suck, but Pierce Brosnan and Aldous Hodge will not suck in it. And I was right. Like the movie,
they were so good. Like, they were the best part of the movie.
They were easily the best part of the movie. And I will say, Quintessa Swindell, I think her name is, who played Cyclone. She surprised me.
Yeah,
and I will say, Noah Centineo. I like that him. Bad. He wasn't that bad. I expected worse.
He's got a show on Netflix that I really like him in too. He plays like a new recruit at the CIA, and it's fun. I mean, he didn't really have as big of a role in the movie, and he sort of was very one note a lot of the times. But I think every cast member,
worse.
Exactly. But like, here's the thing: surprisingly enough, somehow every cast member of the JSA seemed better, more well executed and more well rounded than the main character in the movie, Black Adam, who seemed more one note to me than all the JSA members
he's
did.
He's played by The Rock. He can't act.
But okay, look, The Rock can
for the most
act
part
well when he's asked to. I just think that movie, for whatever reason, was written badly, and The Rock didn't want to do any acting in it because it just. But I digress.
The Rock.
Yeah.
Here's the thing: when The Rock is heavily invested in the behind the scenes, it's gonna suck because
his
it's like
ego gets in the way. He has too much
passion
control.
project,
I get it.
All that shit.
Yeah.
However, when he's not, he actually does a decent job. Like, I'm excited for Benny Safdie's new movie with him about the MMA fighter. Like, that looks really good. I don't know why you're showing clips from Everything or Nothing. Like, this is weird. Anyway,
it's the IMDb. I don't know. It's in there.
Like, what the fuck?
Is this the golden eye? What is this?
No, I think this is
Everything or Nothing. Everything or Nothing. Okay.
This was like the unofficial official fifth.
All right, there we go.
Bond
We're
movie.
past it now. We're past that. Let's. That's what Pierce Brosnan more or less looks like today. I
Yeah.
think he was perfect for Dr. Fate because when you look at him in the movie in not Doctor, but like in Black Adam specifically, when he's not in the suit, he's sort of like dressed in all these layers and carrying the helmet. You don't need him to work out and buff up. Like when you step into the character, I mean, most of the time the character was completely animated. Even if you have a stuntman step into it, I really think that Pierce Brosnan has the presence, the screen presence, the acting ability, and he's still probably like one of the best looking guys in any room that he walks into. So like he can do it. I think it could work really well. So Pierce Brosnan, 007 of the 90s, coming back as Dr. Fate once again. I think that's one of the casting from the DCEU that James Gunn probably agrees was so good that he can't let it go. Like he's brought over John Cena, he's brought over Viola Davis, some great picks.
AKA the people he's worked with.
I know, but like and I don't know if he's ever worked with Pierce Brosnan before, but
I don't think so,
I would love to. Yeah. Fiona's like, can you smell what The Rock is cooking? I mean, I don't know if Fiona, are you watching SmackDown tonight? Because a lot seems to be happening in the Bloodline storyline today. Paul Heyman is back.
I think
CM Punk is the 5th member of the War Games.
I think it's safe to say that the Moana live action remake is the last ditch effort from The Rock, like trying to remain relevant. And then when that inevitably fails, he's just going to go back to wrestling full time.
Yeah,
and then he's going to win like
he's
6 titles in a row.
Owner of the WWE.
Yeah, no, he's going to get a storyline real soon on that show.
I'm pretty sure they're building up to him being the big bad guy in that storyline, and then him and Roman Reigns will have their match at WrestleMania 41, I think, or 40, whichever WrestleMania is next year. In Vegas.
He's got to do a lot of damage control from Mr. McMahon's current situation, so he will. I guarantee you, he will be making a lot of appearances in the near future for sure.
Yeah, and as far as Fiona's saying, I'm sure he has a few more Fast and Furious in him. There's actually a spin-off with Hobbs and Jason Momoa's character that's coming out before the next Fast and Furious.
That's going to be great. I love Jason's character in that. Oh my gosh.
So much fun.
The best thing he's ever done.
Jason Statham is here to save this franchise.
Well, that's why we get 2 Jasons out of that. That's awesome.
But yeah, I mean, they say that the next one is allegedly going to be the last one. So
they
allegedly
they signed on for 12 in total, so we're getting there.
But here's the thing: there was the allegations against Vin Diesel that might throw a wrench into things.
It won't.
So
no one cares.
Maybe I don't know.
Look, it's when they all come together.
That fan base is so hardcore that no one's gonna stop them from making that film. No one's.
I mean, Paul Walker literally dying didn't stop the franchise. So
exactly.
Well, I mean, hey, it's Dom's family, and he's gonna protect his family, even whether he loves Hobbs to be a part of that family. Whether they've made it up or not.
Dan. Just run.
It's family.
Never gets old. I love it. I'm never gonna stop loving it.
By the way, in the chat, there was a suggestion that Mads Mikkelsen, TC24, saying potentially, and then,
I could see Mads Mikkelsen.
Yes,
it could work. He has that.
I think he's better at villains, but I could definitely see it.
Straight class. Lovely man.
We got Dominique in the chat saying bring back Ben Affleck as Batman and Henry Cavill as Superman. I mean, hey, maybe in a crossover, like a Crisis on Infinite Earths one day.
Please,
but
God, no.
They're done for now.
We're done with the multiverse. Please, let's just let it die. Like, and I love multiverse stuff. It just like with the way they do it, it's just like stop.
Well, there's 2 other names in the chat. Keanu Reeves or maybe even Vin Diesel as potentially Dr. Fate.
I can see Keanu Reeves, but he's coming back as Constantine. That's the thing.
Keanu could work.
Well, and again, he's not 007 class. He's mobster class. It's different.
Exactly.
I can't see Keanu playing that. No.
I mean, look, and as far as we were talking about earlier, like, hey, nobody does classy better than, you know, James Bond, and Pierce Brosnan was probably one of the most classy 007s we have ever gotten.
Yeah.
So if
One of
that's
the
the standard
best.
we're going off of,
That depends on
then
the person.
you stay classy, Pierce Brosnan, because you can definitely play Dr. Fate again in my world. So but with that said, guys, we have a couple of more things. We have to get into your comments that we will answer. So do stick around, because of course Jay has a few Buster Barnes. I believe Fiona's got a comment in there as well. So we've got a lot of comments to get into. But before we do that, we do have to wish a happy birthday to one of the main men over at, you know, DC Studios who really, you know, make the wheels turn. And of course, we are not talking about James Gunn today, but we're talking about the other co-CEO of the DC Studios, that is Peter Safran. James Gunn going on his socials today and wishing his co-CEO, his producing partner, a very happy birthday. He said, "Happy birthday to my friend and collaborator for over 25 years, Peter Safran." They've worked together before James Gunn even got to DC and Warner Brothers. And of course, Peter Safran produced the Suicide Squad for James Gunn, and Peter Safran produced the $1 billion Aquaman movie, as well as a lot of the other DCEU movies, you know, good and bad. He's a very successful producer, has been doing this with DC for a long time, and it's just great to see that, you know, of course, James Gunn has been working with him for years and years and years, and it looks like they'll be doing that for a long, long time to come still with DC Studios. I wanted to get your thoughts on this. Of course, Peter Safran, we talked about it earlier, as like the lesser known half of the CEO office over at DC Studios. He still does a lot of work. It's just not the kind of work that makes the headlines, but I feel like he still, you know, deserves his props just as much. What do you think, Liz?
I mean, what my thoughts? Happy birthday to the guy. I don't know. Like, what are we talking about here? It's his birthday.
I'm just asking you
Happy
about Peter
birthday.
Safran. I'm just like, the value
I'm-
of having somebody who does the work behind the scenes while James Gunn
No,
can
that's
go out and do
wonderful.
all
I'll
the
be honest,
you know,
this is the
media
first I've ever
appearances.
heard that name before in my life. I'm sure if I tripped over him on the street, I'd not know who the man was, but
I'm sorry to
that's-
this man. I wouldn't know if I walked into him.
Yeah, that's great that he's awesome. Happy birthday. Stay awesome, buddy. That's awesome. Great.
Yeah, I like what they went with, because James Gunn said multiple times, he's like, "I'm not a business guy. I don't want to run the DCU." And they're like, "All right, fine. What if we bring this very important producer of the DCU for the past 10 years?" And he's like, "Okay, I will handle the creative side. I get to direct my projects. Peter Safran can do all the boring businessy stuff that nobody gives a fuck about, and he'll be the man behind. In honor of Wicked, he'll be the man behind the curtain." So
he's my kind of guy. Dan, did you just like this post in real time?
Yeah.
Okay.
I did.
Just wanted to clarify. I thought I saw that. All right. Gotcha.
Yeah, totally.
Yes, sir.
Totally.
He handles.
I thought about it for a second, and I was like, you know what? It's my show, and I get to do what I want. So,
well, look, there's our boy right there, Frank Grillo. Happy B-Day. So.
Yeah, Frank. And then of course even David Dastmalchian, who was in the Suicide Squad as Polka Dot Man.
Is that how you pronounce it? I never know how to pronounce.
I think it's Dastmalchian. I think that's how I heard it in the behind the scenes like documentary for it.
Okay, that sounds. Yeah. I've been saying Dastmalchian. I'm like, that's probably
Henry
not
Golding, Fiona. Yeah, Henry Golding for sure.
Roger Jean Page. You guys should totally go
honestly
see the
from what
review that we did for Dungeons and Dragons.
I know I froze up, you guys, and I know I was having major malfunctions over here. But my question for this fan casting for this character: does it have to be European white men only? Is that the parameter?
I mean, there was an iteration where there was like there was a theme, like you mentioned, John, right? There was a woman element, like
did do a little
two people sharing the character.
Yeah, I knew of the character because I saw Black Adam, but I did a little research because I think it would be nice to get a backstory of an origin story of that character, because we only got the little, Black Adam version, and he just kind of
I mean, there's lots of different versions you could like. I think the current one is Khalid Massoud, who is his great nephew, I believe, and he's brown. I don't know if I know he's Muslim, but I think he's like Middle Eastern Egyptian character. So I don't know.
Quick, and I won't go crazy into it, but as far as like just straight androgynous people who can play androgynous characters really well, Tilda Swinton, Walton Goggins, Hugo Weaving. But as far as straight class, and maybe kind of newer actors on the scene. Domingo Coleman would be really, he's a classy fellow and he looks good in a
Yeah.
nice suit. Michael Sheen, Michael Keaton, if we're going for the age factor and you want to get him
he's
doing
Batman.
something different in DC.
Michael Keaton is
I'm
Batman.
just
If there's only one character
I'm just saying. But again, Mahershala Ali, we keep throwing his name around. It would be really nice to see him in a bigger
That could
project.
be interesting.
Even David Tennant, Michael Sheen could both. They're very classy. They could spruce it up a little bit. So those were the couple of names.
I
that
can't
was
see
writing
David
down.
Tennant. Can't see David
You
Tennant.
don't
Like, I
I
love
can
David
see
Tennant.
David Tennant.
I don't.
I
You don't
personally
seem
can't.
like you love David Tennant.
I love David Tennant. David Tennant.
Well, you should
have a
express that
picture
on
of
the
him.
show every so
Hold on.
often.
Let's see if I can.
Thanks, Fee. Fiona, just
I don't know.
aside, Fiona, I have a new goal now. Every time I
That-
do my nails, in case Pedro Pascal ever walks by me, my nails have to be on point.
There
at
he
all
is.
times,
You
because
could barely
apparently he
see
cares
it, but
about
I have a picture of him. I have a poster of him. He's right there. Right
well, you
with
need
Martha.
to give him. You need to be
There
nicer
he
to
is.
him on the show. Then you need to be
Bam,
nicer
there we
to
go.
him.
See, look, you're seeing you're seeing
Behind
we
the
go.
scenes.
behind the scenes. There's my comic book shelf. There it is, right there. That's all my comics.
This
My
is
room
John's
is very
basement
messy.
live
I
on
apologize, but it's very messy.
It's not a basement, guys. It's not a basement.
It's
We
not a
have
basement.
debunked-
I have
we
a
have
window.
debunked that theory before.
It's right here. I have
yeah.
a window. See, look.
Now
it's
Buster
dark.
Barnes is saying David
Green
Attenborough.
flags only. Green flags only.
There it
There you
is.
go.
See,
There's a window. That window opens up
Well,
to a wall that's in the ground, but like there's
I was
still a
gonna say,
window.
gang, not for nothing. Basements have windows. They can have
Basement
windows.
But
have
like they don't
windows.
have. They have like tall ceiling windows because it's like the little bit that's in the foundation. I don't have.
I'm just saying, John. We have never seen you open that like curtain to the window when the sun is out. So like, how?
Well, it's not
much
my
do
fault that we
know?
only do live shows at fucking 8 to 10 o'clock at night. You know what? When we do an earlier showing, I will show the sun. Although when we're filming, I think it becomes dark at like 4 now. So like I can't. Thank you for the Earth, Wind, and Fire quote. I guess I don't know how that.
What is happening?
This is.
You should have seen the other
should have
day.
been here
Like that was-
yesterday. Oh my god!
Damn.
Yesterday's show was wild.
Yeah, I mean, Fiona wanted to come on in a fucking Catwoman suit, which would have made Lenny very happy. So
That would have
Come
made
on
me
now.
very happy.
OnlyFans, Fiona. OnlyFans, make that money, girl.
yes, self-eat pics. That's the thing now. So like,
Come on now, guys. Like on this is I'm not even this is a family show, and we just gotta.
This ain't
classy.
a fucking family show. Anytime. Okay, when I got on here, it stopped being a family show. Let's get that perfectly clear.
That's
okay?
very true.
I don't have friends. I got family.
I was waiting for that. Thank you so much. I was waiting. It's hopeful. Very hopeful.
Oh my god. Yeah. Fiona's like, I want to show when I'm walking my dog at 8 a.m. I'm like, okay.
We need to make
We'll
stickers.
work on that.
We need to make stickers or buttons or something that say Toretto family certified. I think that's we need to start merch for this show here, Dan.
We need to
I've
start
got
merch.
ideas. Fuck the penguin. Freaking
Fuck
Harvey Dent's an
Jurassic League.
asshole. Harvey Dent's a dick. Toretto family certified. Come on, this is.
We got fuck
merchandise.
Jurassic League. Fuck Harley Quinn, but not in the way you think.
I really do love David Tennant. Yeah, we can.
I love David Tennant. I do.
Mm-hmm.
I mean,
well,
Good Omens
what?
was excellent. I'm just saying, he was excellent.
You know
in Jessica Jones.
I'm just gonna pivot and say we still have your fan comments to get into, and that's how we're gonna like finish up the week here on DCU Daily. So let's do that, shall we? While we stay classy, of course. The first comment comes from Miraculous, who was in the chat earlier. Miraculous, we're not sure if you're still watching, but if you are, let's talk about your comment, because yesterday, John, we were talking about how
the theme,
the Superman trailer. Are we gonna get to see the theme of this new Superman in the trailer? And then we were thinking, most likely that music is not even ready yet. And then James Gunn, apparently, according to Miraculous, he was like, hey, James Gunn said that he was shooting the movie while playing the soundtrack on set, which to me like struck me as a little odd because that's very like you can't ever shoot a film to the beat of the music. It's not like you're making a music video. Even music videos aren't shot like that unless you're choreographing certain dances to the beat of the music. But even then, it's like all of that stuff is mixed and remixed in post. So I don't think they were like they're filming to the beat of the soundtrack, but it's probably good to have the soundtrack playing in the background so it puts you in the mood. And that's essentially what James Gunn said on social media. And thank you, Miraculous, because he gave us the exact post that James Gunn, put out on the internet because, of course, he's very busy on the socials. It's hard to kind of dig through his timeline and find something that goes as far back as June of this year. So just a confirmation there that, again, James Gunn did have John Murphy complete a lot of the main part of the score. I'm pretty sure not everything that is going to be in the final movie is done yet, but it looks like at least the Superman theme and then a few other key pieces were done, and they were using them while filming the movie. And so, thanks to Miraculous for confirming that for us. What do you think, John? It's again, thanks for the follow through on Miraculous for actually, sending us all this information. He was trying to send us the threads links, but the comments, apparently YouTube doesn't allow links in comments. So,
Yeah, I mean, I think that's definitely very unlike a lot of things. But I mean, James Gunn is doing a lot of unlike things. He's the co-CEO, but he's making movies. The score is done before the movie starts. He made he edited the trailer himself with the actual editor. So it's like all of that's very interesting. And thank you for all this information. I think YouTube like bans. Yes, we will get to it, Fiona. Don't worry. I have many memes to send people. I have to start a work Discord because I have my personal Discord and I don't want that getting doxxed. So, but yeah, a lot of great information and a lot of interesting information. So thank you for all of this, Miraculous. But yeah, I think all of this makes sense. So. Thanks, my guy or gal, whoever you are.
Great comment, and again, thank you for sending us the details. And we'll find the threads links. You can always email us at info@ohsocurious.com, or info@dcudaily.com, and we can we'll get the links that way. Or if you see us on Threads or X or Facebook or even of course
Blue Sky, which is all the rage now.
We are not there yet, but we're on TikTok. You can find us in a bunch of different places.
It's too much. Too much.
Too much. It's too much.
Just shoot me a text. I can't with all these.
Yeah, text is well, you not you don't want to give your number out to everybody, I'm sure, but email works too. Email works too. Fiona's like, yeah, please do. info@dcudaily.com. It goes right to my inbox. So yes. Now we're gonna move on to the next comment, John. The next comment comes to us from Buster Barnes, and he commented, this is from a couple of days ago actually. So he was saying that I get people wanting a more grounded interpretation of Batman villains like Clayface and Mr. Freeze, but personally I think I'd rather the Batman stuck to more grounded villains, as there's so many they could use while allowing the DCU to use the more fantastical. Like I'd rather see Two-Face, Professor Pigs, Victor Zsasz, Court of Owls, Hush, and maybe at the most fantastical Scarecrow in the Batman verse, aka Bex, the Batman epic crime saga. What do you think, John? Are you in agreement with Buster here, or would you prefer the more fantastical?
I mean, yeah, I can kind of see it, but I can see them going a slight bit fantastical. Like Court of Owls and Hush makes sense as the list I was doing the other day. Zsasz, I could definitely see, but the thing is, the problem with Zsasz and Pig is that we featured your comments a lot of times before, so I don't
think Buster's always watching live while we do that.
But I think, I don't think they should do Scarecrow because Nolan already did a grounded Scarecrow, so I don't think they need to go that route again. It's just Pig and Zsasz might be a little bit too, they're just serial killers and they kind of fit into what the Riddler was. So I think Court of Owls and Hush would be better. And they would fit into Batman's development as a character more and fit into what Matt Reeves is doing. So Two-Face is kind of up in the air. But again, Two-Face was already done in the Nolan trilogy, so I kind of want to avoid characters that have already been done in a grounded Batman universe. So, yeah.
Yeah, I agree with you there. I think it's that particular universe leans more in that direction of that more grounded noir to that end, it just makes sense to kind of stick with a character that's not as fantastical. I still think you can make Mr. Freeze and Clayface more grounded, but then again, you might not be maximizing the potential of those characters going in that direction, because I feel, well, Clayface, there's a version that works really well that's grounded. Mr. Freeze and then the more popular version of Clayface, though, they can be characters that can exist in the DCU, especially if, of course, Mike Flanagan does indeed get to do his rumored DCU movie, which most likely, would be part of the continuity James Gunn is building. So then, of course, we can have a Clayface there, and then we don't have to worry about it in Bex. But moving on to the next comment, we've got one from Jay Kells. He's a very, very engaged member of the channel, and he's always leaving us comments in not just the live chat but also in the comment section. So we were talking about Daniel Craig potentially joining the DCU as Sergeant Rock, and so Jay had this to say. He said, hopefully Sergeant Rock is a horror movie. Comic book zombie movie would be a first, I believe. Zombie movies are pretty popular. I lost track of where I was. Are pretty popular with general audiences too, and not that expensive to make. Which I don't know. That depends. Like World War Z was pretty expensive, but I get your point. Which leaves more money to pay an actor on the level of a Daniel Craig. Negotiations could always go wrong. But if it's true that the director is already on board and personally reached out to Daniel, it's hard for me to believe they are not just dotting the I's and crossing the T's, which is. Thank you for quoting me. I said that like 5 times yesterday on a contract, especially with the two of them wanting to work together again. Look, I agree with you. I think it's very possible that this is just the final stage of the negotiations, and Deadline and Variety and The Hollywood Reporter wouldn't really run with the story until they would know for sure certain that there was a lot of truth to this, the idea of Daniel Craig joining the DCU as Sergeant Rock. Having said that, though, I don't know if they want to do a zombie movie straight away, because it just depends on, again, which direction, just how fantastical is the alternate history of the DCU that James Gunn has been teasing, right? What do you think, Liz? Do you agree with Jay here that would you want to see Sergeant Rock versus maybe an Army of the Dead sort of a movie potentially, which has happened in the comics, so there's precedence for that.
So I don't know that I know who Sergeant Rock is. However, I think an idea of doing a zombie movie version would be really unique and different. So I'm totally for that. But yeah, I'm not really sure who that character is. So even then, I'd still like to see it because I'd like to know who this character is. So the more educated
He's
I
essentially
can
a soldier in World War II. That's kind of the extent of it. But
okay.
Yeah, I just think whether they go for like something more serious, like a World War II war drama, or something like an action comedy, or something like a horror action movie, all three of those ideas would be really good and would showcase the uniqueness of, well, maybe less so the action comedy, but two of those ideas would be more unique in terms of the realms of comic book movies. So
Is he supposed to be is he like DC's version of Captain America?
no,
No,
he's
he
not
doesn't have
super
powers.
He doesn't have powers or anything. He's just, a guy. He's
Yeah.
just a
He
soldier.
seems a little more grizzled too, a little
Yeah.
more.
Like if Josh Brolin would be a good, I know everyone was saying him for Dr. Fate, which
he could do a good job. Yes.
That man keeps getting brought up.
Yeah.
I mean, especially because I think that would do a lot to kind of fix his record with DC, having played Jonah Hex once upon a time. I think playing a Sergeant Rock could be a redemption of sorts. But hey, we've got a couple of more comments before we finish up, so let's get into the next one. I think this next one potentially has the means to generate a debate, because it did yesterday. But if it doesn't, it's okay. DNK Global Studios asking, is album art for a song art? Interesting question. I think this was
Fiona will start to rage in the comments.
Well, what do you think, Liz? What do you think? Is just on a, because you went to art school, so you listen to music. I'm sure we all do. We all have our favorite soundtracks and movie music, as well as Lady Gaga, or whoever you listen to.
Let's set the bar here. Is this art? Are these movie posters art?
Most of those don't look. I don't think they
illustration is considered art. Why not? Design in general is considered art. So the laptop you're sitting in front of, the camera you're looking into, the mouse you're using, those were all designed. Those were all created. Those were all structured by somebody that thought, maybe they were looking at it from an ergonomic standpoint. They were looking at it from a stylistic standpoint. They were looking at it from trying to make money for a standpoint. Like it's all art. All of it's art. So I absolutely think that album art for a song, for an album I mean, artists do musicians do reach out to artists and say, hey, I've got an album coming out, either photograph me or create something, or hey, can I borrow a piece of your work that I saw in a gallery one day that I really like? And so yeah, yeah. I mean, it's subjective though, right? We're always going to have this debate. It doesn't matter. I mean, how much did the freaking banana duct tape to the wall just sell for? You know what I mean? So it's all subjective, you know?
That's true.
Yeah, that's what we were saying yesterday. It's all like art's subjective. So
the beauty is in the eye of the beholder. I will say though, it's in the name, album art. Look, here's the thing. To me, album art is also a piece of marketing because obviously it's the first thing you see when you go to get a record from the store or like on iTunes or Spotify when you're like looking for a new song to vibe to, or if you want to like create a new station on your Apple Music or whatever. I actually made this album art, by the way, for one of my friends, Sheldon. Go listen to this. I think this is on Spotify. MF Rhetoric. Both of those guys, they're cousins, actually. They're rhetorician. That's a cool name, actually. I really love that name. But album art, to me in particular, I think is art. Because you see such, amazing designs sometimes. And yes, there's a commercial value to it. But at the end of the day, I think, like you said, Liz, a lot of, great artists, artists who make real art just for the sake of making art sometimes end up working on album art. So I think in that particular instance, yes. Movie posters, it's a little tricky because I don't know. I wouldn't say every movie poster is art. There are certain movie posters that I think kind of elevate themselves to the level where otherwise it's like, okay, you put people's faces in front of a background. I mean, I make YouTube thumbnails for our shows every day. I don't necessarily think that what I do is making art.
I mean, I will say for me, I don't know if you all remember the Batman vs Superman posters that were out for a while. I had them hanging in my office for years because I loved those posters. I thought they were really, great. Really something. Yes. So it's subjective. A lot of people, if they don't like something, are going to say it's not art. If they, if they look at it and say, oh, I could have made that, or oh, who the hell would buy that, or oh, did it? So it's always subjective, but at the bottom, at the end of the day, somebody had to sit down and create it and put it together. And regardless of whether or not you appreciate it or it speaks to you, doesn't denote the fact that, it's art.
Like I say, like everything is art. It just depends. Everything is art. It's just that whether it's good or bad art depends on the person. Like, for instance, I was using Thor Love and Thunder as an example. Is it art? Yes. Is it good art? No. But it's at the end of the day, it's still technically art, even though, I wouldn't exactly call Taika Waititi a fucking artist. But
we've talked about this, John. Don't go there.
But like Sallow is technically art, not good art, and it's disgusting and abhorrent, but it's still technically art at the end of the day. It's just like everything is art. It's just good and bad art depending on who you ask, because it's all about subjectivity. So there's that.
I think that's a good place to leave that conversation because yes, it is subjective. I think in the instance of album art, like I said, I would consider that art. It's in the name. It's also a lot of the times you see some incredibly creative designs, but there's also a commercial purpose to it. It's designed to kind of pull you into the music that you're going to be listening to. With that in mind, of course, we've got one last comment on the show today. This one comes from, of course, Fiona C. Art, who has been very active in the chat today, and so we always appreciate that. And she's just giving us a nice compliment here. She's saying, "Hey, another
just
great
gotta,
episode,
gas up the show a little bit, right?
A little, tap on the shoulder. It's appreciated. The pat on the back.
Manolo,
it's
you're
great.
a little bit late, but it's still nice to see you.
Hey, man. Yeah. Hey, be kind and rewind, man. We talked a ton. We had a Dr. Fate casting and so many, suggestions from everybody in the chat. We talked about, of course, there's a rumor of a Clayface movie. We talked about Aaron Pierre's comments on playing Lanterns, the responsibility he feels playing the character of John Stewart. We got into James Gunn's comments about, talking about essentially why we won't get a Batman and Superman origin story. There's so much that we did on the show today. Another, great show, a great way to wrap up a fantastic week of shows. We are heading into Thanksgiving week here in the U.S. And of course, if you live abroad, then you're probably still still will have, the latter half of the week off probably. If it's a bank holiday where you are, then great. We hope to see you next week on the show. We'll have an Also Curious show to start the week, reviewing Wicked, reviewing Gladiator 2. Thank you again to Fiona for a comment. Another great episode of So Curious, fam. We love it. We love, being gassed up, as you guys said. And we love to see you guys here in the chat, watching us live or checking us out after the fact. We always appreciate that. And do leave us a comment down below. Tell us what you thought about the show today. And, Manolo, like you said, be kind and rewind. If you joined us late today live, then, you can just hit the rewind button on YouTube and start the show from the beginning and check out everything we talked about today. Yes, Fiona's like, even if they think advertising is art, I roll. Well, you know what?
I mean, we have the
appreciate your
person
input.
who has a
It
degree
is.
in
It's
it.
big
Lizz has an
money
art
art
degree.
too. It
Just
is,
saying.
babe. Just because you can get paid mad dollars and it's everywhere in your face, it's still art, my love. I'm sorry. Listen,
Yeah.
I'm sick of pink and green. We talked about this with Wicked, but you know what? Art. Sorry.
Yeah. And I've got a great piece of art right there behind me. Look at that right
Hey
there.
now.
You can get that at Fiona.
Not
you
the fuck
go
the
to
penguin. The fuck the penguin distracts from us.
Yes.
You need to take
Yeah,
that out.
I
that's
did that
Dan in MS Paint for 5
MS
minutes.
Paint. Yeah, fuck the penguin.
Not
It-
art.
it-
Yeah.
I will do something more artful for that. For
And then
for,
we'll make merch of
the
it.
weeks to come. Yes.
Harvey's a dick. Fuck the penguin.
Yep.
Toretto
Art-
family certified.
You know what
Toretto
I
family
want?
Gear
certified.
on the background.
Toretto
big
family
gear,
rotten. We have to create
fucking
like
gear
like
with like
different
smoke or
shirts
some
for different
shit,
things, like
or a Nas tank or something.
Yeah.
We could-
verified fresh, verified rotten, and then like
verified family.
yeah. Even though fucking Vin Diesel would probably send a cease and desist.
We're gonna get one pretty soon from Will Smith. We're gonna get. I mean,
We're gonna
list
get
goes
one
on.
from Colin Farrell. We're
If
gonna
there are
get
any
one.
lawyers watching, would you please? We could use some.
My
guidance
aunt's a
at
lawyer.
some
I can
point.
ask her.
We're gonna need some help. We need a support team.
Yeah.
We
I
need a
think
PR team. We need a lawyer team. We need a we need like everything.
My favorite design that I want to work on is like the James Gunn hair silhouette, and then under that it says "Bless from the start." Like that's what I want to.
Yeah.
Cute. I like that. I like it. I'm behind that one for sure.
Yep, I would love to get that.
Brother never
gotta
told
have-
you never threaten a man's family.
I feel bad. I feel like we have cut Lizz off 3 times today on the show.
No, I was
doing
saying
that.
you got to have James Gunn's glasses in there too. His hair and his glasses.
Yeah,
And
that would be
maybe
kinda
the
cool.
dog, Dan, because you can't stop it with the dog pictures for some reason. But okay.
What? Oh, I love
because
dogs.
he keeps posting the dog, so then you keep posting him posting the dog. Because you're pandering to dog lovers is what you're doing.
right. Like
Let's be honest.
Daddy Gun. Like we gotta.
I'm not the
pay our
auntie. It's
respects.
not me, but sure.
All right. On that note, I think we will end the show for and another great week on DCU Daily and Also Curious. We'll be back on Monday, like I said, with the full episode of Also Curious alongside DCU Daily. So we'll see you then. We'll review Wicked. We'll review Gladiator 2, which I'm affectionately calling together. I'm still trying to figure out which one it is. It's either Wickiator or Gladict, but I don't know. I
like
think it's-
Wickiator.
I
It's a
think
little
it's
more
Glicked.
family friendly.
I
But
think
I
it's
also
Glicked.
feel like Wikipedia might sue you. Yeah, Glicked is good. It's
That's what I've been seeing. I've just been seeing Glicked.
yeah, they're calling it Glicked.
I like what I came up with better personally, but that's neither here nor there.
Well, market it, Dan. Again, merch, babe, merch.
Merch. You know what? That would be great. I could probably get that.
We need to start a
rush shift
Patreon.
and get
If
that
there are
next
any
week.
artists out there that would like to help us with our marketing,
Oh,
anyway, just saying.
okay.
It's almost like Dan is dating one or something. Oh my god.
Oh,
Crazy.
I don't know. It's so crazy.
Well, she doesn't do commercial art, Mir.
we're all gonna get some very angry messages after the show. All right.
Well,
well,
you guys, I don't know her personally, so
don't worry. It's going into a pile that will then unload in one big rant when you do meet her. But until then, we'll be back on Monday. Thanks everybody again for joining us live. Miraculous and Manolo joined a little bit late, but that's okay. You can hit rewind and watch the rest of the show. Antonio, Watcher, we had so many other. I always forget the names, but Jay in the chat, everybody. Hunter was here earlier. If I forget any names, just don't worry, we still love you just all the same. So hit that subscribe button, hit that notification bell to know when we go live, and then hit that like button if you haven't already. And that way, it really helps to get our video out into the YouTube God's algorithm that, of course, we need. We really appreciate it. John, Liz, thanks so much for joining us today. We'll be back on Monday. Until then, guys, have a great weekend. Go out there, watch a movie in a movie theater or at home. Go watch something DC related, and then we'll talk about it on the next show. Until then, have a great weekend, and see you next time. Another episode of DCU Daily.